SiriusXM Business Radio. Your business, your money, your life.
Marketing, expanding, and branding.
SiriusXM Business Radio.
SiriusXM Business Radio.
Your business, your money, your life.
Entrepreneurs, CEOs, and investors.
SiriusXM Business Radio.
To hear Business Radio, activate your radio now. Call 844-711-8800 or go to SiriusXM.com/go to sign up quickly. Amazing moments happen so much at SiriusXM, we want you to see them. SiriusXM Video lets you watch your favorite SiriusXM shows on the SiriusXM app. Groundbreaking interviews, amazing in-show moments, behind-the-scenes footage, live performances, all come to life in a way you only imagined before. Plus, you can create your own personalized Pandora station based on the artist you love. And hear over 100 extra channels filled with ad-free music for every mood or occasion. Get your first 6 months of our Platinum plan for only $8.33 per month, plus fees and taxes. Just call 844-711-8800 to take advantage of this amazing offer.
When you're a SiriusXM subscriber, you've got access to commercial-free music, channels from almost every genre, and channels created in conjunction with the biggest names in music. Eminem's Shade 45, Pearl Jam Radio, Bruce Springsteen's E Street Radio, and more. Visit www.SiriusXM.com/go to sign up online quickly or call 844-711-8800 now. Activate your radio and start listening now.
SiriusXM Patriots, Breitbart News Daily, The David Webb Show, The Will Count Majority, Stacey on the Right, Just the News Radio, Sonny's Corner, The Morgan Ortega Show, Breitbart News Saturday, Breitbart News Weekend, and more. Find them all on SiriusXM Patriot. To hear SiriusXM Patriot, activate your radio by calling 844-711-8800 or visit SiriusXM.com/go.
SiriusXM.
Each game presents different challenges. Whenever your number is called, just be ready to do it.
It's Jason Tatum's Celtics.
Hey, blown by McDermott. Muscles it up and in, scoring a foul.
Versus Luka Doncic and the Mavericks.
Luka between his legs, stepping back for the win. He got it.
It's Game 2, Sunday night at 8 Eastern on NBA Radio Channel 86. And listen to the hometown announcers on your radio and the all-new SiriusXM app.
There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, I think so.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at EquityZoneMortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 018148688.
Rondo Deportes, Bonjour, Vidi Vidi Vici, let's get ready to rumble! Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me, and people who love the universe. And that would include you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? Shut up! Fool! It's 3 o'clock in the morning! As I told people, who's the fool? Or the person listening to the fool at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was voted neighborhood watch person, and I'm trying to bring the people together, but some people just don't appreciate it when it's too early in the morning. But that's their problem, not mine. I want to say today is a beautiful Friday the 7th, 2024. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sit ya where the good Lord split you. And hopefully the good Lord didn't split you too wide. I see a lot of wide splits walking around because people don't want to exercise like they used to. If you got a wide split, as Johnny Cucker said, you must have quit from all those sweets. I think I'm trying to start a Big C's comedy hour. You want to pay $1,000 to go see Dave Chappelle? You can get my show for free. It's obvious. Oh, Yoda's name was only used in one Star Wars movie. His last name was Yoda. I'm still trying to figure out my comedy show. I haven't gotten a lot of people to write me back and say, man, you got a great comedy gig going, but you probably need to retire the comedy jokes. Hey, what do you expect when you buy your jokes at $1.25 stores, all fair, love, and war? You get what you get, you don't throw it fit. I want to say I can follow Big C Sports Podcast on 29 podcast applications all over the universe. You can find us also streaming Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. What I do with Big C Sports Podcast, I'm trying to get into the jokes because people need to chill out more. People need to laugh more. Laughter is good for the soul. That's what I hear is good for. I'm trying to get more laughter incorporated into my show. I always produce the show. Now I'm one beautiful, intelligent black man. I produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all use more laughter in our lives. Like the people last night in Boston, man, they were laughing. They were laughing their asses off. Thinking those good boys from Texas was going to come in there and steal some cauliflower, some collard greens, and some clam chowder. But they said no. They said, get out! My goodness, what a beatdown that was. When someone says 6.5-point favorite, maybe some good old boys in Vegas knew what they were talking about. I don't bet for reasons that you saw last night. I just think that Dallas was a little bit afraid when they saw they had real leprechauns in Boston. That's a real leprechaun! Yeah, those Cowboys, they're not afraid of much, but they're afraid of leprechauns. And the Cowboys got the best of them last night. But then I'm telling you, the commercials are done, the stats are provided, the storytelling. I even do the play-by-play. Jaylen Brown for 3, yes! Get the hole in your life! Have you ever? The great Jaylen Brown just had his dad on as a good luck charm, a lucky charm. His dad, Marcellus Brown, was on Big C Sports Podcast Wednesday, and then his son, Jaylen, he did his thing to the good old boys from Texas on Thursday. That's a good luck charm. I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of good luck charms going around with the Big C Sports Podcast. I want to say also, the show's uploaded to 29 podcast platforms out of New York City. And then I never missed a show since starting Big C Sports with the crew back in the day at Salem Media. In fact, had a conversation today with Sirius XM Satellite and some talks about bringing the Big C Sports Podcast to Sirius XM Satellite. And I said, all I need is I need $6 million. The guy thought I was joking. I said, no, $6 million. He said, what would it take to get your show? I said, $6 million. I didn't even blink. I said, I pledge you get comedy. Who wants to just hear a guy talk about who won the game? I'm tired of that guy. I want to talk about things that are more important than winning the game. Like reparations now! Reparations forever! I love talking about that. I'm going to bring that up too because that's more important to all of us in the United States. The United States, reparations will stimulate the economy. So for people that have, oh, that's divisive. Big C is not divisive. It will stimulate the economy. The same way the Boston Celtics, they stimulated the economy of all those bars in Boston last night when they whipped the assets of the Dallas Mavericks. You want to know how to beat a cowboy? You gotta stick a leprechaun on them. Now they walk around big and bad in Texas in those cowboy boots. They love the cowboy boots and they make your feet feel good. I love cowboy boots myself. But when you see, most people are afraid of snakes. Most people are afraid of dogs, especially those mean dogs. Most people are even afraid of bears. Who's afraid of a leprechaun? You gotta know a leprechaun can beat a cowboy any day of the week, at least in the game 1. I don't know what's going to happen in game 2. Boston likes to give up a game, it seemed, at least in all their series, except for the time when they swept Indiana. But they were about to lose the game in Indiana in Boston at TD Garden, and they found a way to pull that out. I don't think it's over, but I did predict that there's no way that the NBA would allow the Boston Celtics to lose. Big C, there you go with those conspiracies. Well, I'm saying, they celebrated Bill Walton. the great Boston Celtics won a championship with them back with Larry Bird and Kevin McHale back in the day, and Dennis Johnson and Danny Ainge, and they were celebrating the passing of Bill Walton. You know, it's a miss and make league. It's also, do you call a foul, do you not call a foul? There's some people that say that Luka Doncic, he plays basketball like he's on an ice rink, like the NHL Stanley Cup. He'd be a great hockey player because he carries the ball almost every time he dribbles, but they let him do it. I guess if you do it enough, they can't call a travel every time or a carry every time. But he dribbles, he carries the ball almost every time he dribbles. Just the way his style is, maybe that's what he learned in Europe. And they can't call everything. But there's something about that game last night that Boston told the good about. You ever have somebody come into your house and they got on some cowboy boots? You say, get your assets outside with those boots on. And that's what that leprechaun said. See, leprechauns are real. There are people saying they're having some nightmares in Texas. I'm telling you, Boston looked like the team that could sweep these guys, but I don't think they're going to sweep. I just don't think it's going to be a sweep because for whatever reason, Dallas just seemed like they were not ready. You ever been not ready for something? You ever been late to work? And it just seemed like Dallas was not ready. Because how would you feel if you walked into your house and you saw a 7-foot tall leprechaun? You probably run outside. Or you say, get your assets out of the house. But you wouldn't sit there and act like it's okay if you walked into the house and saw a 7-foot tall leprechaun and he could dribble. And I think that's what Dallas ran into last night. And they just ran into, sometimes you run into somebody who has your number, and I think that's what happened last night. But I don't think the series is over. I would love to see 7 games, but it's probably going to be 6 games. I think Dallas is good enough to get at least 2 games at home. They may get 1 on the road. You just never know. That's why they played to win the game. And for all you good old boys, you Bostonians in Boston, you want to crown them. The late Dennis Green said, no, you can't crown them just yet. It's the best of 7, not the best of 1, if that makes sense to you. I want to say what I always want to do with the Big C Sports Podcast, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I love paying homage to the Veterans Crisis Hotline because they really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. You know, anybody going through issues, all you got to do is pick up the phone. And when you're thinking about picking up the phone, you help a veteran. But you don't have to be a veteran. There's a lot of calls coming in from Texas last night in the Dallas area. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give us some praise because we all need somebody to lean on, and especially if you're down in Texas. Well, they say the stars shine brighter in Texas, deep in the heart of Texas. Well, that's my straight-up ticket with it. What a game. I'm going to get into the back end of the game and the back nine if that makes sense to you. But I also want to say I'm talking to a tax planner by the name of Ira Williams. I'm going to have him on sometime next week. He's an estate planner, and I want him to do some collaboration with the Big C team and the RDC team. He said he's more than happy to do that, and so I sent him the information. Hopefully he got that information. So Ira, I told you I'd give you a shout out. And do you do tax planning for leprechauns? You know, like the ones that played at TD Garden last night. Those kind. Man, Boston played. I thought Larry Bird was back in the house at TD Garden. Anything's possible! That's what they're saying down in Dallas because they're trying to mimic what Kevin Garnett said when Boston won their last championship when they beat the Lakers back in the day. But it's going to be a tough hill to climb, and there's not a lot of hills in Texas. But they found some hills in Boston over there by Faneuil Hall at TD Garden. There's going to be a lot to climb. But I want to say I'm working on an infomercial, and I don't have leprechauns in my infomercial. You know why I don't have leprechauns in my infomercial? Because you can't control what they do. Sometimes they jump out to a big lead. I think it was 37-20 at one point. Next thing you know, they let the boys with the cowboy boots back in the game. And Dallas closed within 8 points in the second half. And the leprechaun said, not so fast, my friend. You see, leprechauns are real. You can't tell me they didn't show up last night at TD Garden. And they told the good old boys from Texas, get your assets back to Texas. Oh, fair level work. But I got a program also where we help to protect your assets. We have a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth. Resource Development Consulting in conjunction with the law office of Scott Thibodeau and the law office of Attorney George Jones. The Missing Link, long-term care, solutions by the book, over 3 decades of experience, helping seniors get their benefits, Medicare and You, and taking care of tomorrow. In California, it's called Medi-Cal. Other places it's called Medicaid. That's my story. I'm taking with it. You people, good people, you, your family, and spouse can avoid the spend down for nursing home costs. You can find out your options 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. I promise to you, specialized to navigate and maximize long-term care benefits, protection of your assets without a spend down. All paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by our staff of entitlement specialists. There's no more spend down tests in California now, so that's a good thing for a lot of people. Ongoing consulting to provide updates as necessary, if that makes sense to you. Benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, medical prescriptions, and also medical equipment costs, and more. Not only that, you ever know anyone who's been in a skilled nursing facility? I do. You know anyone who's ever had to deal with medical prescriptions? I do. You know anyone who's ever had to deal with medical equipment costs? And I do. Protection of your assets! Like last night when the Dallas Mavericks went into TD Garden and they were feeling good because they had just beaten up on the Minnesota Timberwolves in 5 games of the 4 games to 1. But they didn't have leprechauns. They didn't have leprechauns over in Minnesota. But you know what they had in Boston? They had 7-foot tall leprechauns, and they said, if you come onto this court, you won't be able to protect your assets. And Dallas didn't believe that at first. Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, they're going to play a much better game in game 2. But they were getting, Jaylen Brown was doing his thing, the real deal. Porzingis had a great game. Tatum didn't play that great. But Brown, Porzingis, they had a great game in Boston. They just caught Kyrie Irving a little bit flat-footed, if you can do that. And then Luka Doncic had a decent game, but doesn't play great enough defense to stop those good boys. And that's something that I look forward to in game 2. I think Dallas is going to play a little bit better. Protection of your assets! That's what Jason Kidd told him. When Boston's driving down inside the paint with those 7-foot tall leprechauns, protect your assets, if that makes sense to you. Avoid the nightmare of debt brought by the government's estate recovery program. Can be between 10 to 40%. You think the Boston Celtics took all the Dallas Mavericks assets last night? Wait till you take your assets in the probate court. They take all your assets, if that makes sense to you. You gotta feel like the Maverick. If you don't have a will and a trust, a one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance premiums for the rest of your life. Not only that, I'm not done yet. As I said, I'm not done yet. And that's what Dallas said when they got beat last night. They said, I'm not done yet. Anything's possible! Trying to channel the great Kevin Garnett when they beat the Lakers back in the day with the great Paul Pierce. Asset protection in conjunction with the law office of Scott Thibodeau and the law office of George Jones. Protection insurance coverage required by law, general liability, workers' compensation, lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal planning for long-term care, avoid probate, life insurance, veterans benefits, aid and attendance, pre-planning, and avoid the look-back period. What about fixed assets, Big C? I'm glad you asked. Your bank account, your checking account, not only that, your savings account, your money market account, your certificates of deposit, life insurance, with cash values, fixed index annuities. What about variable assets, Big C? I'm glad you asked. Real estate, qualified money, IRAs, 401k, other investments. Avoid capital gains. For example, you buy a house for $100,000. Someplace in Denver Hills, people say, $100,000? Where you get that house? Just listen to the story. And then the real estate broker says, in 1 year, it appreciates to $1 million. That's a $900,000 capital gains that you have to pay tax on. You avoid that with a trust, if that makes sense to you. Over 3 decades of experience. Attention business owners. I'm working on a proposal today. You can find out your other options to protect what your insurance does not cover. Oh, my insurance covers everything. Well, 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. Just give a call and we'll have a look at your declaration page. Now, for example, if you're a business owner and you got great coverage. I mean, you got great coverage. Not even a leprechaun can beat that coverage. Well, that may be so. You got great coverage in case your property burns down. You got great coverage in case your property floods, if you have flood insurance. But what do you have if someone walks into your place and they fall and bump their head and they want to sue you? Well, your insurance only covers X number of dollars. If you have your personal assets in a trust, they can't come after your personal assets. They will try to if you don't have a trust. The insurance may only cover what it covers, but if it goes over that amount, then they'll come after your personal assets. That's why if you have a trust, you shield yourself from deep liability lawsuits. 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. If you believe that, you give it some praise. I say give it praise, 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 because we all need praise, and I love giving it praise. I want to tell you, not only when you talk about getting the endorsements of someone, as I was talking to an estate planner today, Ira Williams, going to have him on the program sometime later, maybe later this week or later next week. But we're talking about endorsements of things. And when someone endorses your product, it's nice to ask, well, who else endorses your product, Big C? I'm glad you asked, because when you ask the RDC team who endorses the product, it's important to know. We have the endorsement of Mr. George Jones. He's the chair of the California Black Chamber of Commerce. We have the endorsement of Attorney Scott Thibodeau, a top estate planner in California. We have the endorsement of George Jones, as I mentioned, the California Chamber of Commerce, Black Chamber of Commerce Foundation. Not only that, we have Mr. Leon Woods, Resource Development Consulting, works with many of the top lobbyists in California. And not only that, we have Miss Cheryl Brown. She's the chair of the California Commission on Aging. That's a great endorsement. And not only that, we have Mr. Ray De La Cruz, the CEO of Resource Development Consulting, had the endorsement of the CalPERS chief legal mind, the late Robert Carlson. He endorsed the RDC team. Not only that, we have Mr. Alex De La Cruz, the founder of American Veteran Benefits. He endorsed the RDC team. And not only that, we have Charlton Curry, co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project, Northern California. I endorse the RDC team, also consultant with the RDC team and owner of Big C Sports Podcast. Not only that, I said not only that, we have the Double O. She's part of the PR committee for the National Black Wall Street Project, also consultant with the RDC team, has her own economics awareness talk show called Let's Eat. When it's time to eat, everybody loves to eat. And that's why I say you got to give it some praise. I say give it praise, 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 because of mine, and the praise is a terrible thing to waste. I love giving it praise. I want to say some things about, I'm big on sports, and I'm big on reparations. I know a lot of people, they just want to know, touchdown, home run, three-point play, old man Willie, he's going all the way. And I don't mind old man Willie going all the way. That was the great Willie Shaw from the Oakland Raiders when they had a game in the Super Bowl against the Minnesota Vikings back in the day. But I got to tell you something. When it comes to things that I think are important with the Big C team and telling you things that are important on my mind, I got to let you know there's some things happening in California at the Senate. It's going to be at the Assembly hearing on Tuesday, the 11th. And it's going to be 9 o'clock. I believe it's in room 447. Sometimes they change it up, but it's in room 447. And I want to make sure that when it comes to reparations, there's a lot more than we can do than just cheer for games. I want to make sure that I get that out there, because as part of Big C Sports Podcast, I don't want to just be someone who's shucking and jiving over sports. It's important to me that I get this information out there. May lightning strike if you don't know what's going on in California. And what happens in California tends to lead the nation. I got to tell you this, it's important, because the California Assembly Judiciary Committee, they voting on Tuesday. Need them to vote yes on Senate Bill 1403 and Senate Bill 1331. Senate Bill 1050, I think they're going to do that later in the week. But it's the California Reparations Action Alert. Tell the California Assembly Judiciary Committee members to pass. Senate Bill 1403 creates a state agency to verify eligibility and implementation for reparations. Tell them say yes. And Senate Bill 1331 creates a state fund for reparations and reparative justice. And according to Senator Bradford, California has a lot of money that people don't know about, because there's enough money to pay reparations, and not even bat an eye. After more than 70% of the California State Senate recently voted in favor of reparations now, reparations forever. And the related bills, Senate Bill 1403 and Senate Bill 1331, both of these historic, are now in the State Assembly, and they will be heard by the Assembly Judiciary Committee on Tuesday, June 11th. At 9 o'clock a.m. is when they're saying check in. Now, Senate Bill 1403 creates an agency to verify eligibility and implement reparations. Senate Bill 1331 creates a reparations fund in the state treasury to facilitate funding for reparations. And I believe Senate Bill 1050 helps create a repair for the eminent domain and giving back land, or also compensation for land that was unjustly taken in California. Oh yeah, land was unjustly taken in California through redlining and eminent domain, and disproportionately affected African Americans. And not only that, we did not get the chance to participate in the Homestead Act. So that's important. Now, each of these measures was recommended by California's first in the nation Reparations Task Force that was commissioned by Secretary of State Shirley Weber. Got the ears and the eyes of Governor Gavin Newsom. So they put together the task force, but Shirley Weber needs to be mentioned in that. So not only do these bills do a great part in laying the groundwork for pen to paper. You know, you put the pen to paper in reparations. It's so important. A lot of people don't know this, but reparations and repair, they represent the first bill in California history specifically targeted residents who descend from people who were enslaved in the United States. You know, that would be people who look like me. Beautiful, intelligent black men and beautiful, intelligent black women. We're closer to reparations than we've ever been. I'm gonna say this one more time because it's more important than who won the game. I say we are closer to reparations than we've ever been. Contact the Assembly Judiciary Committee and tell them vote yes on Senate Bill 1403 and Senate Bill 1331. That's by the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California. It's important that I mention that because a lot of times people want to figure out, well, how do we do things? How do we get things done? You either lead, follow, or get out of the way. Well, that's my authority. I'm sticking with it. Give that some praise. Before I get into some sports, I want to take the time to pay homage to the California Reparations Task Force because, as I always tell you, a mind is a terrible thing to waste, and you don't want to waste your mind. And I know I don't want to waste mine. I got to say, you don't hear about this on any other sports show in the universe than you do with Big C Sports Podcast. A lot of people say, well, that happened last year, Big C. No, it was just about a year ago. I've been going to task force meetings. But I do want to give praise to the members of the task force because sometimes if you don't tell someone thank you for your hard work, they may think that you take them for granted and that you don't appreciate it. And that's why it's important for me to do this. I want to do it because I believe in it. And I hope that it can help a lot of people. I want to thank Secretary of State Shirley Weber. She spoke to Gavin Newsom about getting this task force together. And then I want to give her praise. I'm going to also give praise to Attorney Camila Moore. She's the chair. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Dr. M.C. Brown. He's the vice chair. I love giving him praise. He's actually been on the Big C Sports Podcast just a couple of months ago, and he talked about reparations, and we talked about long-term care and how a lot of people may not know how important it is to be a part of these meetings. Because for the most part, they got us sucking and jiving and can't wait to see the game and can't wait to see who's going to play a game and who's going to score points in the game. Reparations will stimulate this economy. That's why I spend time talking about it. And I'm on 29 podcast platforms, streaming on 4 TV platforms. So the people that say, oh, you shouldn't talk about that kind of stuff, they're wrong. You should always talk about doing the right thing. I want to give praise to him. I'm going to give praise to California Senator Stephen Bradford. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. He's the one who stood in front of the state senate. He was like Moses. When God told Moses, he said, go down into Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And Moses, he said, well, who do I tell him sent me? And Senator Bradford said, tell him I am sent you. Because Bradford was like Moses when he spoke at the Senate. And I believe he's going to also be around, available for the assembly as well. Really do appreciate him. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to Council Member Monica Montgomery Stepp. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Assembly Member Reginald Jones Sawyer. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Shell Grills. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to our attorney, Lisa Holder. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. She specializes in called diversity, equity, and inclusion that a lot of states are trying to get rid of in universities. That's a shame. I love giving her praise. I'm going to give praise to Dr. Jovan Scott Lewis, professor at California Berkeley. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to Attorney Donald K. Tamaki. He's part of the California Reparations Task Force. And as a Japanese American, his family members got reparations. So I love give them all praise. Give them all praise. They all know that a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I love doing that. That's just so important to me. I love being a part of that. And before I get into my talk about sports, I want you to hear what an attorney says about reparations. because it's more important than who won a game. Her name's Antonia Reva Martin.
Not that cash payments by themselves are enough. It's that cash payments is one way to recognize the harm that was done. And it's very interesting when you look at the Jesuit universities, 27 of them, and the work that they've done in this area. They've gone through this very, very exhaustive process to investigate their relationship to slavery. I mean, so much so that they hired genealogists to trace and to find the actual descendants of enslaved people. So, I mean, you have to think about how expansive and, intense and comprehensive this research was. But then you have to also ask yourself, how come these institutions with all of their resources never, ever utilized an economist, a statistician, a labor, expert to tell us the value of the wages and the wealth that they accumulated? It just looks like this big gaping hole. So I think the question should be reframed. How come the universities aren't sharing with the families the value of the labor and the value of the wealth that they've accumulated? So people are always asking descendants or survivors, why do you want money? And I think the question should be the opposite. How come you're not coming to us with money? When you think about the 9/11 victims or any victims of a disaster in this country, there's never, ever a question about should we compensate them. That is a part of our civil, legal, judicial system. You have a harm, somebody else causes it, you are entitled to compensation. It's never, ever challenged, except in those examples where Black folks are involved. So I think we have to change the narrative around this question, and rather than, and not suggesting you're doing this, but oftentimes families or individuals who are seeking compensation are put on the defensive as if they've done something wrong. No fault of our own. We did nothing wrong. And if you worked for me, I'm an entrepreneur, business owner, if you worked for me and I never paid you, you would have recourse. You would be able to go to a labor board. You'd be able to go into our courts and demand your labor be compensated. You'd be able to get penalties against me for not compensating you. You'd be able to get interest on those wages that I didn't pay you. So again, this isn't like new to capitalism. This is how our country is built. This is how we operate today. You work, I pay. Let's be clear. So our request in terms of compensation, restitution, is not the total amount that was calculated. We calculated that amount because we felt like it needed to be a part of the conversation. It's on the table. We're not asking them for $74 billion. We're asking them to consider the value of that slave labor in the same way they are considering other aspects of their relationship with enslaved people. What we hope to get out of it is, first, that descendants are literally put back on this committee, that this is no longer a university exclusive committee, that the descendants are there at the table, that they commit to a timeline. Loyola University of Maryland went through this process and wrapped their work up in 2 years. So you can Google them and see what they've done in 2 years. We're into year 5, and we've not even sat down and talked about a plan. So we also hope that there's a commitment to wrap this work up in some foreseeable future, 6 months, 12 months, that it not just go on indefinitely. And then we are asking that the plan that is developed includes not only some of the things that we see in this work, monuments, things that give attribution to those who helped build this university, curriculum changes, projects that help the community. One thing we realized, so many people in St. Louis is a small city, 300,000 people. I live in Los Angeles now. There are 12 million people where I live. So few people had even heard of this work. So another part of what we're hoping that comes out of this is some resources spent educating people about this work, because people in that very community don't know. And then, of course, some kind of financial restitution for the labor, for the wages that have been uncompensated for this period of time.
In your life, get the hole! I say reparations now, reparations forever. Now listen to the greatest speaker in the history of this country on reparations, and then we'll get in the hole.
To suggest that, ending welfare as we know it, all those kind of things are somehow, great and noble things, when we're not dealing with the underlying problem, which is that there's no economic opportunity there because of insane trade policies and because of Reaganomics. And Martin Luther King spoke to this. Jim and Shane, this is clip number 4. Martin Luther King spoke to this sometime back in the early 60s. And I thought this was a really interesting quote. Here he is.
The problem. At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. This is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
From his speech, The Two Nations of Black America, and it's absolutely brilliant. And the next time some white person talks about, well, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and my family did too, especially the Bundy boys. I mean, here's Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., talking about how basically whites stole the West from the Indians with the complete, and didn't just steal it. I mean, murdered them he murdered the Indians in the process, and did not give any of these benefits to African Americans for 100 years in this country. It's a strong case for reparations or some variation on it, for rebuilding our cities, for doing right after having done wrong for so many centuries. It is a very, very strong case for that.
In your life, get the hole! Reparations now, reparations forever.
After a lengthy layoff and an honor, Big Red wearing the Walton warm-ups. Kyrie back in the familiar building. He told us when he joined us after they clinched that he's been able to unpack it in a healthy way. Speaking of healthy, welcome back to the floor, Kristaps Porzingis. Incredible first quarter burst as the C's are up 8. Now Porzingis from 30 feet, all 3 of these, and the building's going nuts. It was a 2-point game, 17-15 in the middle of the first. In the blink of an eye, it's up to 27. Porzingis on the chase down, gets the block at the rim. 11 points, 2 blocks in the first quarter. He's the first player with 10 and 2 in a quarter off the bench in the finals this century. It's a 17-point lead. It's a 16-point game here. Look out! Jaylen Brown down the lane. When he turned the corner right there, it looked like he was going to try to dunk it. And he flushes it on everybody as they're up 18. More Porzingis. Dude, Mackie Max in the building. Wahlberg there, roaring. Give me that. Doncic gets ripped from Brown. The defense turns to offense, and it's all Celtics. They are roaring in game 1. At this point, before that dunk, I think Tatum had 6 points, so they were up almost 30. There he drops the hammer. Do it again. That's cash. Porzingis 18 off the bench, the most off the bench in the first half since Jason Terry in 2011. That was a Mavericks title. But then in the third, it comes Luka. He buries the three. Then it's Doncic again, and when he hits this one and gives a little look to the crowd, with the margin down to 8, you think you never know. But that was right about then where Tim Legler said, they spent a lot of energy. Now what happens? Here's what happens. Boston puts their foot on the gas. Off the miss, you get the Porzingis dunk, then the Tatum 3. The lead in the blink pushed right back to 16. Then Kyrie on the drive. No, sir. Do not bring the Kool-Aid to a gin party. That is a block from Brown. He had 3 blocks and 3 steals through 3 quarters, and then 3 more points from deep. And the lead's right back to 20. Early fourth. Derek White with the strip all the way the other way. And the Celtics are able to rest starters and largely cruise to a Game 1 victory.
Get the hole in your life! Get the hole in your life! Have you ever? Man, what a blowout game last night. We should have been standing in line for reparations. But we're standing in line for the tip-off. And the Boston Celtics, they've shown why they have 17 championships. And I believe 18 are to come because I just believe that's going to happen. The leprechaun. I told you, when you see a leprechaun, how can you beat a leprechaun, especially a 7-foot-tall leprechaun? The good old boys from Texas, they found out last night that these are no ordinary leprechauns. They can shoot Jason Tatum for 3. Yes! Get the hole in your life. Kristaps Porzingis for 3. Yes! Get the hole in your life. Jaylen Brown for 3. Yes! Get the hole in your life. Have you ever? I'm telling you, what a game last night if you're a Boston Celtics fan. Not so much if you are a Texan fan. Anybody from Texas. In fact, a lot of my friends from Texas, they don't even return phone calls. Not to anyway, but it's probably good because they got to get their stuff together. Game 2 might be a different story, but I think I was saying 7 games. I want to see 7 games. I still think we'll get 6 games out of this. I don't think Dallas is going to get swept. They just ran into a leprechaun that's a little bit taller. It looks a lot taller in person than it does on TV. That makes sense to you. So 2024 NBA Finals, it tipped off with a dominant Game 1 win by the Boston Celtics. The great Johnny Most. Havlicek inbounds to Russell. Russell throws over to Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge over to Larry Bird. Larry Bird over to Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum to Jaylen Brown for 3. Yes! Get the hole in your life! And Jason Kidd said, wait a minute. They had 6 guys on the floor. Well, you're in Boston. You're allowed to have 6 guys on the floor as long as they're playing for the Boston Celtics. But that's what it seemed like. It seemed like they were playing with 6 guys on the floor. It took place Thursday night at TD Gardens. And this series couldn't have been started any better for the Boston Celtics. They had a 23-5 run over the final 6 minutes of the first quarter to build a comfortable lead. Boston defense continued to give Dallas fits through the first half, limiting the Western Conference champion to 42 points. Its second lowest first half point total in the 2024 playoffs. And the crowd was so stoked. They were championing reparations now. Reparations forever. I knew I heard that at TD Garden. Some people said, Curry, are the audio organ mine? I said, I heard them championing reparations. I knew I heard it. I knew I heard them champion reparations. And then the Boston Celtics went on to win that game. They had a 21-point lead. The Celtics enjoyed that at halftime. They started to evaporate in the third quarter as the great Luka Doncic, who never saw a carry he didn't have. I mean, he likes to carry the ball, but they won't call it all the time. But they were able to cut the lead and cut the deficit to 8 points. And then Boston's ability to limit Dallas role players, it was too much to overcome. The great Luka Doncic. He dropped 30 points. Luka Doncic for 3. Yes! Get the hole in your life! He also had 10 rebounds. But 1 assist was a postseason career low. The great Jaylen Brown, he led Boston with 22 points. Jaylen Brown for 3. Yes! Get the hole in your life! Have you ever? That good old boy, his father, Marcellus Brown, was on the Big C Sports Podcast on Wednesday. So I called myself a lucky charm also. All right, good luck charm. And then the great Kristaps Porzingis made an impressive return from a calf injury. He had sidelined the 7'3" tall center. He looked like a leprechaun. since the opening round. He finished game 1 with 20 points and 3 blocks. The Mavericks will try to even the series Sunday in a game 2, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ABC Sports. But while we wait, you got to realize what stood out. In game 1, I think Boston's ability to guard the great Kyrie Irving, he went 6 for 19, and he was 0 of 5 from 3. The great Luka Doncic, he dropped 30 points. He had 10 rebounds, but just 1 assist. And the fewest he's had in a game this season, ever in a postseason. And the Dallas Mavericks, they realized they were in over their head, at least game 1, and had 9 as a team, only 9. Much of that defensive success, it came from Boston's defensive versatility and his ability to throw multiple defenders at the Dallas Mavericks. And the Stars, without doubling the great Luka Doncic, I think he's torn apart double teams in the past throughout the playoffs. And being able to stay at home, Boston prevented the Mavs role players such as P.J. Washington from getting going. And then Tatum doesn't have to play well for the Celtics to beat the Mavericks. The Boston Star had a subpar night. He dropped 16 points. He was 6 of 16 shooting with a game-high 6 turnovers. But not only that, it didn't matter. The Celtics have too many other offensive players, and 6 players finished scoring in double figures, especially if Kristaps Porzingis, if he stays healthy, and I think he will, it's going to be hard for anyone to say Boston's not the better team. I think Boston's advantage in the three-point attempts. Boston Celtics for 3! Yes! Keep the hole in your life! They had a great advantage in three-point attempts, although both of these teams believe in the threes. The Mavericks 44 behind, only the Celtics 47 in the percentage of their regular season attempts behind the arc. And there are levels to their commitment. The threes, when you think about Joe Mazzulla and Boston's ability to switch a variety of pick and roll combinations, now maybe they get away with some pick and rolls, maybe some foul and rolls when they're at home. You got to have some home court advantage. And maybe some people down in Texas, they feel like, well, Dallas got the chance to play against a team that was allowed to hold. Maybe not, but that's called home court advantage. The Celtics defenders, they had to stay home rather than having to help with the paint, surrendering the open looks. The result, Boston doubled up Dallas beyond the arc in the first half. And while the Mavericks won't continue to shoot as poorly from downtown as they did and falling behind by 29 points, that's a concern. It's a big concern when you fall behind by 29 points. The team that has attempted more threes has gone 48 of 27. Think about that in this year's playoffs, including Boston going 11-1 as compared to 2-1 when the opponent shoots more. The Celtics did a great job taking care of guarding the Dallas Mavericks and keeping the three-point attempts from the great Luka Doncic, keeping them low. Dallas went 1 from 3 from the corners, with the loans coming from the great Josh Green in garbage time. At the same time, you got to realize Boston had a little bit more rest. You can't say that both teams were not rested, but Boston had more rest. For all the talk about the Celtics benefiting from injuries on their way to the finals, that stood out. How they are also such a great team. They survived a serious loss of their own. The great Porzingis, his size and shooting ability, and he tilted the game in Boston's direction as soon as he checked in. You have a Celtics team that has struggled to defend the rim with a 6'9" Al Horford who's getting older, and then his tallest starter was impenetrable. In the paint, the great Kristaps Porzingis, he blocked the great Kyrie Irving's fadeaway. It was a play Horford no longer was able to do in an isolation at age 38. When you look at the offense for Boston, it's the offense. You want offense? We'll show you offense. We have a 7-foot-tall leprechaun. Porzingis showed how great of a player he is. A little bit skinny, but at 7'3", he has control of the ball. He can shoot over the top of defenders. Also rebounds, he can block shot. Porzingis was shooting too much for Dallas to handle. And then driving the lane, Dallas really didn't have a chance. Last night, they did not protect their assets down in the paint. They got to block out more and risk getting called for the charge. I think Luka took a great charge on Jaylen Brown right about midcourt, and it could have gone either way, but Luka played that out away from the paint, and they got to do that more because Boston likes to get out and run a lot, and they did a lot of running last night. Porzingis at full strength, playing for the first time in more than 5 weeks. He was rested. And then the energy he brought to the game, and that's also when he walked out onto the court during the warm-ups, and the roof came off at TD Garden. They were championing reparations now! Reparations forever! Because in Massachusetts, they also want to champion reparations at task force, and that's my story I'm taking with it. But they are talking about championing a cost for reparations as well. But at the same time, I got to tell you, when you look at Boston, a lot of people were stunned at how the Celtics were able to make it look so easy, especially in the first half. And then when it got down, it was a 29-point lead, and the Good Old Boys, they closed it to within 8. They called a timeout, and then Boston went back to work. I'm telling you, there's a lot of good players. Porzingis was a special scoring night for him in shooting and blocking and rebounding. Porzingis became the first player to finish with at least 20 points, 3 blocks off the bench in an NBA Finals game since the great Kevin McHale in 1984 versus the Los Angeles Lakers. At the same time, he was so dominant, and I think he'll play well in Game 2, but I think Dallas will also play well in Game 2. That's just my opinion. I'm sticking with it. I think the biggest challenge Dallas needs to make and the biggest change in Game 2 is get the great Kyrie Irving going. If this is a repeat of the Oklahoma series season, in that series when Kyrie struggled and Dallas survived on a heavy diet of 3-pointers from Washington and Derrick Jones Jr., Boston will be a massive favorite to win the title. The great Dallas Mavericks, they look a little bit taller down in Texas. Like the late Jackie Gleason said, it's Smokey the Bandit, you sound a lot taller on the radio. Well, they sound a lot taller on the radio down in Texas, but the Mavericks need to sound a lot taller at TD Garden and for the rest of the finals to resemble the Minnesota series, where the great Kyrie Irving and the great Luka Doncic were called the best backcourt in the history of basketball by some NBA pundits. I mean, they were getting in the defense. They were getting in the backside of the Good Old Boys from Minnesota, but the backside of the Good Old Boys from Boston is a little bit more chew on, if that makes sense to you. But they got to play better defense. A big-time production for the Boston Celtics. Is the challenge for Boston is they got to deal with Derek White, Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. Dallas has a lot to deal with. When you look at Dallas, you're only really dealing with Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. At least that's the theme going into it, because they were called by many pundits the best backcourt in the history of the NBA. Now, Dallas is special when it comes to the great Luka Doncic. When he gets off to a fast start, he played with a little bit of anger and ferocity in that Minnesota series against the Big Cat. And that reminds me of the great Kobe Bryant. Perhaps it was the length of the Celtics defense, but Doncic didn't start off fast, nor did he get his teammates going. He did drop 30 points, but he missed 8 threes and had 1 assist. You're not going to beat the Boston Celtics when you miss 8 threes and you have 1 assist. That's just my story, and I'm sticking with it. But they got to find a way, because as the great Kevin Garnett said back in the day, he said, anything's possible! They got to believe that. And down in Texas, they got to find a way to get the ball moving. And the Mavericks had fewer assists. They had 9! 9? I guess that's how you were raised. They had 9 fewer assists. Luka Doncic averaged himself. In the regular season, he had about 10 assists per game. And 1 assist was the fewest ever when he's played at least 35 minutes in an NBA game. You got to know you're not going to win when you're way off your mark. And I think Dallas and Jason Kidd, they're going to look at the tape. They're going to realize they got to make this game more physical. And some of the issues was Dallas' ability to make the shots and create in the pass, in the passing lanes. The Mavericks shot just 1 of 6 off of Doncic's passes, and that could have led to assists. They just got to play better. You got to play better. If you lose, go down 2 games to none, you still get to go back home to Dallas and try to clear things up. But that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I think it's going to come down to Dallas just playing more physical. And when Boston's trying to get at the paint, you got to protect your assets. You got to put a body on the players. You can't just let them come in and dunk and have a 3-point shooting contest. You got to get a body on players. If they can do that, they have a chance to steal Game 2. It's a slight chance, but you also have a chance. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. If they really want a chance, they got a chance at reparations now. Reparations forever. And I'm hoping they'll start doing that down in Texas. Got Game 2 coming up on Sunday. I want to congratulate the College World Series softball champion, the Oklahoma Sooners. They beat Texas. And when you think about that great franchise, Oklahoma's amazing. They have the Oklahoma Sooners, powerhouse team in football, and they have the Oklahoma, their basketball team's a solid team as well. But then their college women's softball team, Oklahoma has won 4 consecutive women's college World Series titles. The Sooners have won 7 since 2013. That's the most by any team or state in that time, but it hasn't always been easy. At the same time, that's a lot of championships. 4? They did a 4-peat and the state of Oklahoma, the Women's World Series Championships, they made it look, I won't say easy, but it was an 8-4 win over Texas. Now they're joining the SEC next year, and I wish them the very best. But two teams coming out of the Big 12, finishing 1-2, and Women's Softball Championship Series, I gotta give them some praise. Give them all praise. That's my story, and I'm taking with it. Congratulations to Oklahoma. They have been a league of champions in the Big 12 with Texas and Oklahoma shining bright. It may not be as easy when they join the SEC because you got to know sometimes a hold is a hold and a foul is a foul. It just depends on our strike is a strike, and sometimes it's not a strike depending on who you are. I won't forget about Lord Stanley's Cup. Lord Stanley's Cup coming up over the weekend. The final between the Florida Panthers set to face the Edmonton Oilers. Oh, Canada! The Panthers, who lost to Las Vegas in the Cup final last season, are looking for the first Stanley Cup in franchise history, while the Edmonton Eskimos, they're seeking its first Cup championship since 1990. I know people are focused on basketball more in the United States, but it's all fair and level war. I wish them nothing but the best. If they got in the game, they're going to drop the puck on the ice. Game 1, Edmonton at Florida, June 8th, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ABC and ESPN. You want to give that some praise? I say give it praise. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, I love that sports is $1 billion industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this $1 billion industry. And I believe that reparations is so necessary in that more sports teams get behind it. The NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, and soccer. Of course, it's all about doing the right thing. And with Big C Sports Podcast, I believe you, the lead, follow, I get out of the way. As I mentioned before, Senate Bill 1403 and Senate Bill 1331 are going to be in front of the State Assembly in California on Tuesday, June 11th, 9 o'clock a.m., I believe, in room 447. But it's about getting the reparations movement that we need to pass Senate Bill 1403 and Senate Bill 1331. If you believe that, give us some praise. I say give it praise. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you on every Big C Sports show, I love paying homage to my beautiful family legacy. On my mother's side, my great-grandparents, Mama and Pop, my grandparents, Muddia and Hezekiah, and I can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Under the Head Start program, a food program, and also coaching all boys, the Little League baseball team, to the championship of the universe. Always saying rise and shine. The best person I ever met in my life. And then on my father's side, my grandparents. I love my mama with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. With all my heart, mind, body, and soul. On my father's side, my grandparents, Albert Curry and Alberta Curry, they were pastors at 3 churches, owned 2 gas stations in Oakland, also 40 acres of land, if that makes sense to you. I was 8 years old, walking through their house about 10 o'clock at night. I felt someone touch me in my forehead about 10 o'clock at night. And she said, "What are you doing, young man? Going to get some more cookies?" I said, "What are you doing up, Grandma? It's 10 o'clock at night. You normally go to bed at 8:30. She said, "What are you doing, young man? Going to get some cookies?" I said, "Cookies are baby crap to what I'm doing. I'm going to get my reparations." But a couple of cookies won't hurt either. And speaking of that, she said, "There's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak." I want to pay homage also to my beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure that planes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night. I love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful brother Todd with that bombastic voice, sound like thunder and lightning when Todd would speak. Always saying go forward. A voracious reader. Todd, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful daughter Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College student, very smart, college graduate, erudite, 2 degrees with honors in 3.5 years from a major university. Daisy, you can be anything you want. She set up the very first interview for Big C Sports Podcast back in the day at Salem Media. We went on from there to become the first time in the history of the United States of America that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network because the 2 black men in the crew called us the Dream Team. I still have the letter from station manager. Daisy, you can be anything you want. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College graduate, very smart, erudite, a good man. You can be anything you want to be. Always trust God, Isaiah 54:17. Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get the newspapers and look up stats for Big C Sports podcast on players and teams. One day Malcolm said, Dad, why don't you just Google it? And the light bulb went off. I've been Googling ever since. And then Malcolm said, Dad, do you want to see Big C Sports on TV? I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say, play Big C Sports. You'll see your show come up. That's before it was even on the air. Now it's streaming on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Malcolm, you can be anything you want. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Always trust God. And then Big C, with all that wealth and knowledge over the years, always saying you gotta believe, saying let's get ready to rumble. I love saying welcome to the show. ESPY nominated, Big C Sports Podcast. I have no scripts. I have no three-way teleprompters. I have no producer in my ear. All I have was this gland in the brain called the pineal gland. The ancients called it the third eye. And they say that's how you talk to God. And that's why I scream so loud. I hope that God's listening. I want to win the Mega Millions tonight. It's a great Friday night. Oh, fan level war. I want to tell you, I want to give a little shout out to a show called One Gungas on Blog Talk with the great Tim and Marvell. They do a great job talking reparations Monday to Friday at 9 to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I always tell you for this weekend, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can call Uber, you can call Lyft, you can walk it off, you can sleep it off, but don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of a car and start driving after they've been drinking. The life you save may be your own, or someone you love, or someone that somebody else loves. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. My beautiful mother always says that never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that crap on their own. If somebody's choking you, I only choked you because you made me mad. Call 911. If somebody's slapping you, I only slapped you because you made me mad. Call 911. If somebody's kicking you, I only kicked you because you made me mad. Call 911. No man, woman, or child should have to put up with that crap. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Back by popular man, back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want to champion reparations now, reparations forever. And then I float like a butterfly, and I sting like a bee. There was no fighter greater than Muhammad Ali. Well, let's do what Boston fans were doing last night. They champion reparations now, reparations forever. Reparations now, reparations forever. Say it like your heart, mind, body, and soul believes it. Say reparations now, reparations forever. I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day.